Welcome to This Explainer. We're jumping straight into something today that can literally make or break years of your hard work. Whether you're finalizing a PhD, an MPhil, or an MA in English language teaching or linguistics, the way you close out your thesis is absolutely critical. So today, we are focusing entirely on the expert way to conclude.
Let's be real for a second. The absolute biggest mistake scholars make is treating their final chapter as a mere regurgitation of their entire thesis. Just repeating what they've already said. This is a massive trap. In fact, top-tier institutions like Cambridge, Oxford, EFLU, and Monash actively warn against it. If your examiner reads your conclusion and feels like they are just skimming a condensed version of chapters 1 through 4, you have entirely missed the mark.
Think of it like this. There is a stark contrast between an amateur ending and an expert synthesis. An amateur essentially just hits the rewind button, they repeat their methodology, and list out their basic findings all over again. But an expert synthesizes the research. They step back, look at the big picture, demonstrate exactly how they've contributed to the field of English language teaching, and then build a really sturdy bridge to future research. They don't just summarize, they claim their impact.
To get you to that expert level, we're going to break down a dense 14-step academic blueprint into this structured roadmap. 1. Beyond the basic summary. 2. Resolving the research past. 3. Claiming your study's impact. 4. Navigating limitations and futures. And 5. The expert final checklist.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, Beyond the Basic Summary, setting the stage for synthesis.
When you sit down to write those first couple of pages of your conclusion, you just need to briefly jog your reader's memory about your study's core purpose. You want to touch on the research problem, the design, and the importance of the investigation. For example, you might remind them that you were investigating AI-assisted instruction for engineering students' speaking proficiency using a mixed methods design. Keep this super brief, maybe 1 to 2 pages max. The goal here is just to reorient the reader, absolutely not to reproduce your entire methodology chapter all over again. With the stage set, we enter Phase 2, resolving the research past, where we tie up the loose ends of your study. This is where you firmly anchor your work in the actual data you collected. You must present your findings according to each research question or objective. And honestly, a highly effective way to do this is to just explicitly ask the exact question your study originally posed. Something like, does AI-assisted learning improve speaking skills? Don't make the examiner flip back 100 pages to remember what you were trying to find out. Put it right in front of them.
And then deliver a punchy, direct answer. A simple yes. Students in the experimental group significantly outperformed the control group. That is exactly what an expert conclusion looks like. You really want to avoid dumping new statistical tables with raw numbers here. Instead, summarize the important trends and major discoveries. Tell them exactly what you found in plain, authoritative language. Now here's a pro tip. Examiners absolutely love visual structure. When someone is grading a 100-page document, a giant wall of text is just exhausting. So utilizing a clean layout to explicitly state the achievement status of your research objectives provides immediate clarity. It creates an instant, digestible scorecard of your academic achievements. You just list your objectives and definitively state if they were achieved or partially achieved. Then you briefly unpack each one in the text right below it. You're going to want to do the exact same thing for your hypotheses. Instantly verify them. List them out and explicitly mark them as accepted or rejected. Again, this visual organization shows incredible scholarly confidence. It proves you know exactly what your data backed up and what it didn't, which you can then explain the why for in the supporting paragraphs. Moving right along to Phase 3, claiming your study's impact. We are transitioning from what happened to why it actually matters. This is the true hallmark of an expert. You can't just list data. You literally have to explain why your findings occurred by linking them back to established theories in second language acquisition and ELT. This is your discussion of major findings. So if speaking performance improved, you need to ask, does that support Krashen's input hypothesis because learners got comprehensible input through AI? Or does that increased interaction align more with Long's interaction hypothesis? You have to connect your specific granular data to the grand theories of your field. A truly impactful study cascades its contributions across 4 distinct pillars. This is a section students often skip, but examiners look for it every time. You need to map out your theoretical contribution, like how you extend ELT theory. Then your methodological contribution. Maybe you developed a brand new questionnaire. Next, your practical contribution, showing how this actually helps teachers in the classroom.
And finally, your policy contribution, exploring what your findings mean for university guidelines or digital language labs. When you're making those educational implications and recommendations, an expert researcher takes a 360-degree view. You should be generating specific, evidence-based advice for 5 vital stakeholders: teachers, students, institutions, curriculum designers, and policymakers. For teachers, it might be about incorporating new AI tools. For institutions, it could mean upgrading their language labs. Basically, you want to make your research practically useful for everyone involved in the education ecosystem. Next up is Section 4, Navigating Limitations and Futures, where we look to the horizon without apologizing. Listen closely to this one, because it's a huge trap. Every single research study has limitations. Every single one. Maybe you had a small sample size, a short intervention period, or you could only test engineering students at one specific school. The key is to explain these limitations honestly and professionally. And the golden rule here? Absolutely do not apologize. Acknowledge these boundaries objectively as normal constraints of academic research, not as some sort of personal failure. Instead of dwelling on what you couldn't do, demonstrate scholarly foresight by suggesting future research avenues. You are the expert on this topic now, so point the next generation of researchers toward exciting new frontiers. Suggest they look into ChatGPT-assisted learning or virtual reality and ELT, or urge them to conduct longitudinal studies to see if your findings hold up over several years rather than just a few months. Which brings us to our final section, the expert final checklist, ensuring your thesis meets rigorous international standards. You'll definitely want to keep this definitive checklist handy. Before you submit your thesis, verify that you were synthesizing rather than summarizing. Ask yourself, does my conclusion address every research objective? Does it clearly explain my contribution to theory and practice? Does it highlight originality? Does it offer practical implications for all stakeholders? Run your final draft against these exact benchmarks, and if you can check every single box, you are ready to go. And finally, bring the whole shebang to a meaningful close with a powerful final paragraph. Look at this phrasing. The study demonstrates that technology-enhanced language instruction has considerable potential to improve learners' communicative competence. This research contributes to the growing body of knowledge in English language teaching. Notice how confident that is. It's conclusive. It leaves absolutely no doubt in the examiner's mind about the sheer value of your work. So I leave you with this final provocative thought to consider as you sit down to write. Is your final chapter just a summary of the past, or is it a blueprint for the future? Don't let years of incredible research fade out with a whimper. Use these strategies, synthesize your findings, claim your impact, and write a conclusion that demands to be noticed. Thank you for joining me on this explainer, and happy writing.